Okay, right. So we'll get started with the Unit 5 questions. I removed that recording of the previous part so that it doesn't go onto YouTube. Okay, eventually, guys, these recordings I will put on YouTube, but not immediately. Right? I want you to come to class and get it done. Okay, so starting with Unit number 5, the past papers. So Unit 5, if you all would have seen, I divided this into 3 parts. So there was focus area number 16. So these are the topics covered in focus area 16. There was focus area 17 and focus area 18. So focus area 1 to 15 was from the first 4 units. So now we are going into focus area number 16. So in this session today, we'll be covering the past papers relevant to the business cycle, the circular flow of income, double counting error, gross value addition, those things, users and the limitations of national income accounting is what we will mainly cover. Okay, so then let's get started. How many of you all did the questions now? Come to class, no? 3 months to go, and this is what you're doing. How many of you have finished the questions all? It won't take that long, right? I think we have taken around 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get it done. Okay, right, we'll start. Okay, so give me answers on the chat box. I'll keep the chat box open for, no, I think you can, I'll just keep the chat box open for everyone. So we'll get started, right? So 2011 A-levels, question number 23. Mango cultivators sell their harvest to a factory manufacturing mango jam for 5,000. The factory sells the jam to the supermarket for 8,000. The supermarket sells jam to consumers for 10,000. What is the correct statement? Okay, so for this, Lamai, we can look at the value addition. So we'll start with the mango cultivators just to explain the story. You have the mango cultivator. So there are multiple people here. Cultivator. You have the jam manufacturer. You have the supermarket. So there are 3 people out there. So what is happening? The mango cultivator, guys, he's starting to produce mangoes. He's growing mangoes and he doesn't use any inputs. So he has an output of 5,000, right? Does he use any inputs? No. What does he do? He sells his jam. He sells his mango to the jam manufacturer. So jam manufacturer uses intermediate inputs of 5,000. And how much of an output does the jam manufacturer produce? Jam guy produces an output of 8,000. See, they're selling it to the supermarket. Then what does the jam fellow do with this 8,000 worth of jam? He sells it to the supermarket. Supermarket sells it to us at what price? At 10,000. So now you can get, Lamai, the value added at each of the stages. So can you tell me how much is the value added for the first guy? The mango producer? How much of value addition is he doing? The mango guy is doing a value addition of 5,000. So it's gross value of output minus intermediate consumption. The jam manufacturer has a value added of 3,000. And the supermarket has a value added of 2,000. How much is the total value added, Lamai? If you get a 10,000. So total value added is a 10,000. Okay, now with this, we'll look at the answers. We'll see which one is correct. First one says, value added by the supermarket is 10,000. Is that correct? Supermarket, does he add value of 10,000? No. Supermarket adds value of only 2,000. Wrong. Value added by the manufacturing firm is 8,000. Jam manufacturer, 8,000 value added? No, only 3,000. The total value added is 23,000. No, it's only 10,000. The value added by the supermarket is 3,000. No, it's 2,000. And then the last one, total value added is 10,000. Right. See, it's an easy question, Lama. You can break that down. And so there are multiple other questions also I'll show you that is there. If you break it down, you can get that done. So that is the first one. Then we'll go to the next one. 2011 A-levels question number 24. The diagram shows the trend and actual growth path of an economy. And they're saying Which of the following combination describes the state of the economy when it moves from Y to Z? So right now you're at point Y, you're moving to point Z. So they're asking you, right, what is the stage of the business cycle? Is it a boom or a recession? You're going up, actual output is increasing, it's above potential. That is a boom, right? This stage is what you call a boom. Okay. What do you think is happening to the output gap? Is it positive or negative? Now remember, this is actual output, this is potential output. So if your actual output is more than potential output, we call it a positive, the negative. We call it a positive output gap. So it's a boom and the output gap is positive. So which one is your answer then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 3. Boom and positive. Easy enough. Done. That is the second. Then we go to 2012. Gross domestic product or GDP is what? Is the sum means total, of all the exchanges of goods and services during a year. So is it the total of all the exchanges of goods and services during a year? Or it includes financial transactions such as the purchase of stocks or bonds traded during the year, includes the purchase of goods at intermediate stages, is the sum of the total spending on all final user goods produced domestically within a given year, includes all goods and services produced during a given year. Which one is the answer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did you all go? Looks like number 4, no? So it is the sum of all spendings. This is the expenditure approach definition. So in the expenditure approach, how do you calculate GDP? In the expenditure approach, it's the sum of all the final goods and services that we spend on. Why is number 5 wrong? Number 5 says includes all goods. It's not all goods produced. Because if you take intermediate goods, right? Intermediate goods and raw materials, we don't include because it gets double counted there. It includes all the final goods and services produced during a given year, and also it has to be produced domestically. What India produces, we can't put in our GDP. So that is where 5 is wrong. Because one, it says all goods, it's not all goods, it's all final goods. There is a problem there. Then here also it says sum of all exchanges. No, because now all exchanges means even second-hand transactions get included. We don't put second-hand. Then 2 says includes financial transactions. No. 3 says includes intermediate goods. No. And that's all. Cool. So it's answer number 4. That is your correct one. Good. Then we go to the next one. 2012, question number 19. Which of the following will most likely occur during the expansionary phase of the business cycle? Intermediate goods are my raw materials. For example, now here, if you take our previous example, now this mango is an intermediate good for the jam manufacture. This jam is an intermediate good for the supermarket. So if you include this guy is 5,000, this guy is 8,000, and this guy is 10,000, you end up double counting. So that is why these intermediate goods you don't include. You don't include the mango cultivators mango, jam manufacturers jam, you don't include. The final jam bottle that is in the supermarket is the one that goes into GDP. So intermediate goods you remove, because otherwise it gets double counted, because inside this 10,000, that 8,000 and the 5,000 is already there. The 8,000 is there, inside the 8,000, the 5,000 is there. So you don't include that. That's the intermediate goods story. Okay. Then we go to the next one. Which of the following will occur during the expansionary phase? So expansionary phase is where, can you all briefly tell me what happens here? During the now expansionary phase. So what happens to your actual output? Or in other words, your real GDP? Actual output or real GDP? Yeah, if the jam bot is used for other business, then there'll be another stage. Actual output or real GDP increases. What happens to aggregate demand level during this stage? Aggregate demand is also increasing, right? So along with that, firms are producing more and more, so investment will rise, all of that will happen. What do you think will happen to unemployment? If firms are producing more and more, what will happen? Unemployment will decrease. Okay, so all of that is good, right? Demand is increasing, actual output is going up, unemployment is coming down. All of it is nice. But what's the problem here in expansionary phase? Along with this, what happens? Something else starts increasing. What is that? That is, Karadare, inflation starts going up. I forgot to tell you the inflation. Did you all, so inflation rate was out yesterday, CCPI. How much was the number? How much was the number? Did it turn positive or was it still negative? It was still negative. Negative how much? It was a minus. So this is CCPI, year-on-year inflation for July 2025. What's the rate? It was, if I'm not mistaken, minus 0.3%. So that's deflation. So from last year, September, now that's what I told you, that's another probable question that they can actually ask. From last year, September, inflation has been at negative levels until even July. So now for 11 months, it has been negative. Now for August also, if it is negative, then for an entire year, it becomes negative. So that's deflation. We talked about the reasons and all of it in our class, I remember, on Wednesday. So others also, but have an idea, you all can get. How will inflation rise during a boom, Islam? Because aggregate demand increases. You will have demand pull inflation during that. My prediction was a minus. No, I was first thinking minus 0.2, but then I told you we don't. So our firm's prediction was a little higher because the other partner I was doing this with, he had something, because I had the gut feeling that it would be negative, but my other friend from my firm, he was saying, no, it will be a plus 0.7. So then we had a bit of discussion and then we settled to the middle ground. So we told our clients that inflation would be plus 0.2. So as a firm, we kind of got that wrong. But personally, individual me, I got that correct. So that's the thing. They won't ask you the inflation rate in your exam now because every month maru on. So him specifically point out. Okay, right. So then, which one can be our answer for this during the expansionary phase? Real GDP rises, unemployment falls. Real GDP rises, that is actual output increasing, unemployment falling. Looks nice, no? Real GDP rises, unemployment rises. Neither. Real GDP declines, no. Interest rate rise, business failure rise, nah. Inflation rises, yes. Employment falls, no. Unemployment falls. How will inflation rise during? That's what I just said, right? It is because the aggregate demand increases. Remember, demand pull inflation. In unit number 7, we learned when aggregate demand increases, when people are spending more and more, aggregate demand shifts to right, prices start going up. That's what happens. Okay. Right, that's that. Guys, what are you planning to do after A levels? Right now? Do you all already have plans, or right now all you only want to chill? What do you want to do? Do you all want to go work? Do you all want to do a course? Do you all want to? Nice. Some people want to join the army also. Well, teach. Nice. So do something, right? Don't just stay at home. Maybe your first few weeks. How luck think, right? After this thing, yes, get your license, definitely. Right? After A levels is done, for that, first few weeks, for that chill kalla. But after that, make use of it. Especially develop your skills. Skills that you have to, yes, doing all these courses and everything is good. But along with that, work on your skills as well, right? Work on your different skills of, let's say, for example, your computer related skills, right? That is, let's say, IT stuff, right? How to use Excel, learn how AI and everything is working now, right? This generative AI, ChatGPT, to make full use of those things. Work on your presenting skills, right? Even how to talk. Now, for example, now yesterday's the interview I went. You don't get the questions beforehand, right? You're live on TV, and that those interviews, they don't cut and make like in a film, right? It happens at a stretch. They have the camera in front of you, they record, and that's how it goes. So the skill to, answer a question, the skill to, continuously keep talking. Where sometimes you might not know. Now, yesterday, there was a question that this guy asked me, which I had no idea, right? He talked about what? He talked about some, I don't know if you all watched the video, do you all see he talking about some Brazil something, where the Brazil president, the former Brazil president has filed a case against the current Brazil president, and then Trump is mad at that, and Trump has put a 50% tariff on Brazil. I had no idea what on earth that was. Right? So I also don't know everything, no man. Right? So okay, so that's the thing, right? No, I didn't say good morning, right? I feel I didn't say. I hope I didn't, right? Did I say good morning? No, no. On this thing, I think at the beginning. I don't think. Okay, right. So things like that, right? So even to, face a question, right? Even if you get a difficult question, how do you tackle it? Right? You might not know everything. I mean, you can't expect a person to know every single thing that is there, and they don't tell you the questions beforehand also. No? So you need to know how to handle things. So work on those skills, especially after A-levels. Yes, do whatever courses also that you're planning to do, right? That can help you, professional courses, all of it, get it done. But along with that, work on the rest, right? Work on how you talk, work on your IT skills, different things. That is that. So that is what, Lamai, will make you stand out during an interview or when you get a job. If you think that just getting 3 years, everyone is coming to give you a job, it won't happen, right? Teachers will tell you, you get 3 years, go to a local uni, everything is sorted. It is not, right? Just because you get 3 years and get into a local uni, things are not sorted. So you learn how to balance things out, work on that personality, work on your English, right? On how to talk and all of that. Things will then get there because there's so much of competition out there. You need to stand out from the rest. So work on your professional development. And after levels, don't just wait, right? Get something done. And I think I would have told you all this a little also for those who are interested in econ. Right now, I work in an econ firm. You all kind of know what my job is. So there is a practical econ course that our firm is currently designing, right? So it's now here we learn theory, no? So in the real world, how does econ actually work is a kind of course that we are designing. It's very interesting. It's very practical, especially given that you now know the theory around this whole thing. How does it actually work in the real world, right? How does this, for example, these tariffs, right? How do you pay? How is it calculated? What goods get tariff, right? At what point do you pay? So those things can be something that you can actually do, right? So I'm telling this in the past paper class, if anyone is interested, since there are some people who usually don't come. That is something after A-levels. It will most likely be around a 3-4 month course. Okay, right. Okay, that's 2012. Then go to the next one. What about this? Question 20, 2012. In calculating GDP, all of the following are excluded except what? This ideally has to be a part of the next focus area, but that's okay. Is it there in this paper? Or have I mistakenly put it? Was it there in your focus area 16? Have I mistakenly put it in the slide? If it's not there, it's no. Then we'll do it next class. No problem. We can leave that. Go to this. 2014-22. I jumped one question, did I? No. 2012-19. In your tutor after 2012-19, is it 2014-22? In the PDF tutor I sent you for those who got? Yes, no? All right. Then the characteristic that can be observed when an economy moved from the bottom to the peak of the business cycle. These are also kind of the expansion story, right? You're in the bottom. So when you're in the bottom of the business cycle, right now you're at the bottom, you're moving to the peak. So what can you observe? What happens to your actual output? Same like expansion, no? Actual output increases, employment will increase, or in other words, unemployment will come down. What else will happen? Aggregate demand will increase, inflation will increase, right? All of that. So which one is your answer? Number, same thing as the previous one. Nothing different. Answer number 3. Increase in actual output, employment, and inflation. Then we go to the next one, 2015. In the circular flow of income, which of the following flows directly from the government Potential output lemma will increase with time. That's when the economy grows. Okay. What flows directly from the government? Taxes, exports, savings, transfers, investment, expenditure. So I'll cut through these lemma in exports, savings, investment, may government. Nane. Is it taxes or is it transfers? That is why you have to read the question. Be careful. Which of the following flows directly from the government, not to the government? If the question said what flows to the government, then taxes are correct because households and firms pay taxes to the government. But what flows from the government? What do you get? From the government, you get government spending and also, yes, the English prashne. You have, if there was government spending, that could have been the answer. But if since we don't have government spending, you can go with transfer things. So for example, things like pensions, things like, for example, samurdhi payments, all of that comes from the government to households. So you can go with that. Aspasuma now. Yes. Previous one, the answer was Lamai number 3. Okay. Okay, 15 done. Answer is 4. 2015, 22 is 4. Then we go to the next one. 2015 question number 23. Now the same question, the opposite. Earlier in a paper, they asked you during the expansionary phase, what happens? Now they're asking you during the contractionary phase, what happens? So can you all tell me what and what happens then? During the contractionary phase, what happens to aggregate demand? Aggregate demand. So people are not spending. If people are not spending, what will happen to your actual output or real GDP? Output will start coming down. So if firms are cutting down output, what does that mean for unemployment? Firms are reducing their production means unemployment will increase, or meaning employment will come down. Along with that, what do you think can happen to inflation? If aggregate demand and all are coming down, my inflation or price level can start coming down. So which one is your correct answer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 2. Unemployment is rising and output is falling. So these are easy ones, right? Do you realize that it's the same thing that they're product twisting around? 1 year they ask this, Anitya they ask this. So that's why when you all do questions now, even when we start the mock exam series, now the questions I give you in the mock paper will be hard, but that doesn't mean that exact thing will come in your A-level paper, right? So you need to think, okay, if now sir asked this way, what if they change the question like this? So you always, when you're doing questions, think like that. Now, especially even when you're doing accounting. Now, accounting, you get adjustments, right? Let's say, for example, partnership. Okay, a new partner joins. Then you might have to, do this goodwill adjustment, all of it. So then you think, okay, right, what if this partner leaves? Then how do I do it? So always have that curious mind when you are doing questions. Because exact question එක එහෙම repeat කරලා එන්නේ නෑනේ ළමයි. What they do is they take that question, they turn it around. Now, for example, that's what they did here. So here, if you look at this question, 2012, the questions are, okay, during the expansionary phase, what happens? So when you're doing this question, think, okay, now what if they ask me during a contractionary phase? So then see, 3 years down the line, that same thing was tested. So that's what you also have to have in mind. Yes, price levels will come down in the contraction phase. Okay. Then the next one, 2016 question number 20. One of the real flows in the circular flow model of income is what are the real flows? I'll quickly run you all through this. So you have the households, you have the firms. So households provide land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. In return, they get paid. They get paid rent, wages, interest, profit. What do households do with that? They spend. So they spend on goods and services. In return, they receive goods and service. So I'll just label this 1, 2, 3, and 4. So from this lemma, which ones are real flows? Which ones are this? Yeah, capital K, that doesn't matter, right? Which ones are real flows? Which ones are financial flows? Real flows. Financial flows are where money is going. Real flows are where your factors of production, goods, when those are transferred. So what is a real flow? Number one, right? Providing your factors of production is a real flow, and getting the goods and services, that is a real flow. Then what are monetary? Monetary, or in other words, my financial flows. Which one and which one? Receiving rent, wages, interest, profits, and spending on the goods and services. That is where money is going. So 2 and 3 are monetary flows, 1 and 4 are real flows. Now see, in this question, now they ask you which one is the real flow. So maybe in your paper, they can ask you which one is the monetary flow. So that's why always be open-minded. This year they ask this, now, okay, can they turn this? Now that is what I also do. Now when I make my mock exams, what I do is I also open the past paper book. I take some other school papers, I take different things, I open it, right? Then I think, okay, how can I twist this question? How can I make this question even hard? How can I make the student thinking a bit more? So I take it that way, and I now change the question and make my own question. So that's what I do in my mock paper. That is exactly what your examiner also does. They take to this ones and they move it around. Okay, so we'll go through the answers then. Which one is correct? Okay. The flow of goods and services from firms to households. Is that correct? The flow of goods and services from firms to households. Is that a real flow? Yes, that is number 4. The flow of goods and services from firms to households. That could be our answer. We look at the others. The flow of goods and the flow of factor services from firms to households. Factor service flow is a real flow, correct. But does factor services go from firms to households? No. It goes from households to firms. So that is where that is wrong. The flow of goods and services from households to firms. No. Goods and services don't go from households to firms. It goes from firms to households. Wrong. The flow of money. So again, money is my monetary flows. I'm not even reading the other part. When you say flow of money, those are monetary flows. So which one is your answer then? Number 1. So far, are we okay? Shape. I think we did 10 MCQs, 10 or maybe 9. Okay, 21. The sequence of the phases of the business cycle. So when they say sequence, now they're asking for the correct order. So which one has the correct order? The starting point can be anything, Lamai. From that, it has to go in correct order. So I hope you all know the phases. Maybe if you want, I'll draw it here. So if you have the phases, Lamai, this is your potential output. This is your actual output. So this is a trough. This is a peak. This is expansion. Expansion is broken into recovery and boom. This is a contraction. You have a recession and a depression. Okay. So see which one has the correct phases, Lam. So. Peak is on this. Sorry. This is a peak. This is the trough. Okay. Which one has the correct phases? A contraction and expansion, not the first one. Contraction and a trough, okay. After trough, you won't have a peak. Contraction and a peak, no. Contraction and peak, no. Contraction, trough, expansion, peak. That looks right, no? Answer number 2. You contract, you reach the bottom, you expand, you reach the peak. So answer number 5. So 21, answer 5, 2007. So this is the paper that I did. Very easy question. No? Then 2018. Okay. No, Zoom chat is, I have the old version. You can send a message only to me. Okay. 2018 question number 21. For economy consisting of households and businesses only, which of the following is consistent? Consistent means which of the following is correct, Lamai? What do you think is correct? Households are producers of goods and services. Wrong. No, households don't produce. No. Okay. Households are users of productive resources. No. Business firms are the users. Wrong. Households are suppliers of productive resources. Anna, that is correct. They are the suppliers of productive resources. And then business firms are producers of goods and services. Correct. Business firms are producers of goods and services. Correct. Then business firms are collectors of taxes. No, government is a government. Business firms are suppliers of resources. No. So this one has to be answer number 17 marking scheme says 4. Fail. Contraction peak can't be, no? Are you checking the right task? 2017 A levels, question 21. Just check whether I have got the question number wrong. Check in your past paper book. Is this question number 21? In your past paper book, 2017 A levels, question 21, is it this? What is the answer at the back of the past paper book? All right, have I given different answer numbers? Sorry, I think I might have, then when I typed, I would have switched the answers. So I think check in your past paper book, maybe this option has to be number 4 then. Okay, but this is an easy one. You all know the story. No? Okay, so I would have typed it wrong. Sorry about that. Okay, my options are different. Sorry. Okay, then that is done. 2018 question number 22. Why the fifth one won't come? Business firms are not the suppliers of resources. Firms are the suppliers. Households are the suppliers of resources. We need to provide our land labor capital. So that's first part is wrong. Okay. Now, 2018 question 22. Which of the following statements defines GDP? They're asking for a definition. Which one? The total quantity of output produced by an economy at a given time period. The total market value of all output produced at a given time period. The total market value of all final goods and services produced by an economy in a given time period. Total value of all final goods and services sold in a given time period. The total value of all final goods and services produced by an economy minus the market value of final goods and services exported to other countries in a given time period. Which one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one is GDP? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number. Answer number is number 3. I'll explain. Some of you all gave me 4 and 5. I'll tell you why is 4 and 5 wrong. So 4 says all final goods and services sold. It's not all final goods and services sold. Now, for example, I take this in class as well. Now, let's say this MCQ books. Now, for your batch, when I do this MCQ program, for every student who joins, I will not call my printing guy and say, Ane, print a new book and give. No. I will print a quantity of books. Okay. So we'll assume, let's say I print 500 books. So 500 grade 12 books, 500 grade 13 books. So in total, I print 1000 books. So that means it's enough for 500 students. But let's say, example, only 450 students join this MCQ program. Then what has happened? I have printed 500 books, but only 450 got sold. 50 books are left. So those 50 books, even though it was not sold, it was produced. So it has to be a part of GDP. GDP is the value of all final goods and services produced during the year, not sold. If it is not sold, that's okay. If it was produced this year, you have to put it in this year's GDP. That's why, in the expenditure approach, you have that inventory adjustment. Because in the expenditure approach, if my books aren't sold, it will not be there. Now, in the expenditure approach under private consumption, there will only be private consumption 450 books. Because you all have bought only 450. The other 50 books that I produced, it will not be there in the expenditure approach because no one bought it. So that is why under remember, gross domestic capital formation, we have something called change in inventories. So that 50 books gets recorded there. That's why that adjustments get made in the expenditure, because otherwise the output approach and expenditure approach won't match. So output approach will say, look here, there was 500 MCQ books produced, but expenditure approach will say, look here, only 450 MCQ books were sold. So under private consumption, you will only have 450 MCQ books. Then there is an issue, because at the end of the day, my all three approaches have to give you the same number. So therefore, what you do in the expenditure approach, that's why under gross domestic capital formation, you have something called change in inventory. So then this 50 books gets added over here. So then at the end of the day, output and expenditure approach gives you the same number. So that's the logic behind the change in inventory story. There are essay questions on that. We'll come to that when we do this. Okay. So answer then, it's not number 4. It's not what is sold. Number 5 is nonsense. Number 5 is talking about complete nonsense. Total value of all final goods and services produced minus the value of final goods and services exported. No, exports have to be included. Right? So just because that is the longest answer, that doesn't have to be the correct answer. So this is total market value of all the final goods and services produced during a given period of time. That's your correct answer there. So answer number 3. Done. Then 2018 question number 23. What is not included in the measurement of GNI? Is this there in your this thing, or have I mistakenly put this question? Not there, no, sorry. I made this last slides in a hurry. Yeah, so market value is correct, Lamai. Now, when you calculate GDP, you don't calculate GDP on basic price, no, it's calculated on market price. So it's on market value. Okay, this one, 2019 question 19. Which phase of the business cycle is, education is not a transfer, it's government expenditure. Okay. 2019, right? Sorry, I missed one. This one. Sorry, 2018, there's another one I missed. 2018, 24 is there. Okay. Assume that a hypothetical economy contains only 3 industries. Industry A. Okay. So there is industry A. So industry A uses imported inputs of 30 million. Okay, so their intermediate consumption is 30 million. And producer output and sold to industry B for 100 million. So they have made an output of 100 million. And what have they done? They have sold that to industry B. So you have industry B. You have sold that to them. Then industry B, using no imports, sells a part of its output to industry C for 300 million. Okay, so 300 million. And exports for a foreign country 60 million. So these people make 360 worth of an output. Try to understand. Huh? Industry B uses 100 million worth of inputs and produces an output. Of that, 300 million of that is sent to industry C. So you have industry C uses intermediate inputs of 300 million. And then they are saying what is happening and exports this one. Industry C uses 30 million worth of imported inputs also. So they use this 300 plus another 30 million worth of imported inputs also. And what do? They sell an output of 500 million. What is the GDP? Okay, so I'll just summarize that again. So to summarize the story again, what's happening here? Read the question. You have 3 industries. Okay, I'll go word by word. They're saying industry A, first industry, uses imported inputs of 30 million. So imported inputs here, they're using imported inputs of 30 million. And produces an output and sells it for 100 million to industry B. So industry A has produced the output of 100 million and they sold it to industry B. So that means for industry B, that is a raw material now. So they sold it to industry B. Then what did industry B do? Industry B, using no imports, sells a part of its output to industry C. So industry B has produced an output of 300 that they have sold it to industry C. Okay, it goes as intermediate consumption and exports goods to a foreign country for 60 million. So industry B, they have sold 300 to industry C plus another 60 they have exported. So they have made total 360 worth of goods, 360 million of goods. 300 they have sent here, 60 they have exported. Then what does industry C do? Industry C, they are saying, uses 30 million of imported inputs. So they are using 300 million from industry B and another 30 million some imported raw materials. And producers are output of 500 million. So that is the numbers there. So based on this, they're asking for the GDP. So how do you get GDP, Lamai? You take the total gross value added, you adjust for taxes, net taxes. But here there are no taxes, no? Then the gross value added and the gross domestic product will be the same. So how much do we get? We'll get the gross value added at each stage. Industry A, 100 minus 30. How much is their value added? Is a 70. Industry B, they have a 360 worth of output. Users intermediate inputs of 100. They have value added of 260. And industry C has a value added of how much? 500 minus 330. They have a value added of 170. So if you add all of this, what is that? I mean, at whole final good, final value of the good which they have given 500 in the passage will be the answer. It will not always be the answer because if you import and export, it can change. Okay. So answer is number. What's your total gross value added? I'll show you why that's wrong. 70 plus 260 plus 170. That is a 500. So total GVA is 500. There are no taxes or subsidies to adjust. Therefore, you can take 500 as your GDP. Okay. So now the question is, sir, instead of doing all of this, sir, can't we just take the final output of industry C? We can take the final output of industry because that is 500. Then you're ignoring all the intermediate stages. In this question, that 500 nicely matches, right? But what if your imports, exports numbers change a bit? Okay. What if import, export numbers change a bit? I'll give you an example. Let's say, right, assume industry B, okay, I'm trying to change the question a little, C, and I'm showing you why you can't exactly take that 500. When there are imports, exports, number gets different. If there are no imports, exports, you can take the final number. That's not an issue. But if there are imports and exports, number gets different. So here, look at this. Let's say, Lamai, if you take industry B, they have produced 300 million and given to C, and they have exported 60 million. Now, what if instead of exporting 60 million, what if they export 80 million? Then your answer changes. Then industry C's final output is still 500. This one will be 520. But this answer, for some reason, nicely it balances out. But there is no rule that it has to balance out. So if there are no imports and now, for example, in that first question that we did, now in this question, they were not talking about imports, exports, anything. So in this question, instead of doing all of this and getting 10,000, you can get this 10,000 because both are same because there are no imports, exports. But in this question, for some reason, you get the number, but it doesn't have to be the same. So be careful. Don't try to do a shortcut and get the answer wrong. When there are imports, exports, it can start getting affected. Because imports, exports means, Lamai, one firm's output doesn't necessarily have to be the other firm's inputs. They might get imported inputs. This firm's output, entire thing won't go here. Some might get exported. So then you have to individually go one by one and look at this. So if there are taxes, now I add it to this thing. So GV, come on, you all know the tax adjustment. So that is 500. So how do you go from GVA to GDP? Gross value added. This will be at basic price. So if there are taxes, how do you go to GDP? You add your taxes on products minus subsidies on products. You get GDP at market price. Okay, done. So 2018-24 is number 2. 2019. Which phase of the business cycle is characterized by an increasing positive output gap? Where is the positive output gap increasing now? During the peak, recession, expansion, trough, contraction. Where is the positive output gap increasing? Is it during, okay, so recession. So in a recession, my positive output gap is decreasing. Positive, I'll just say OG is coming down. During a peak, your positive output gap is at its maximum. It's not increasing, it's at its highest. Where is the gap increasing? Positive output gap during the expansionary phase. Number 3. So if I am to draw that and show you. So this is the expansionary phase here. Here. Little by little, this is the expansionary phase. Here. Little by little, it is increasing. That is your answer. Now, during the peak, the positive output gap is the highest. They are not asking where is it the highest. They are asking you where is the positive output gap increasing. So where is it increasing? It's increasing during the expansion phase. So 2019 is answer 3. Yeah, so if boom was there, boom is also correct. Then that is done. 2020. 2020 question number 19. The value difference between GVO and GVA. If I did this calculation also, what did I minus? From gross value of output, how did I get gross value added? There was something that I minus. That is the difference. Also. What did I minus? For example, if my gross value of output is 100 and this is 30, there's a difference of 70. What is the difference of 70? I ask you, what is the difference? The difference of 70 is monotone. Is your intermediate consumption. So which one is the answer? Number 2. So the difference between GVO and GVA is your intermediate consumption. Done. Okay. Easy one. Then we go to the next. 2021 question number 19. Economic recession is characterized by all of the following except what? A decline in investment and employment. So a recession is means you're going down, right? Initial phases. So this you can think of it as a contraction. So in this, what happens? Decline in investment and employment. That is correct. So they are looking for except which one? No? So this is correct. No? During contraction, investments will come down, employment will come down. Increase in the price of inputs due to increased demand for inputs. Increased demand for inputs. Do you think during a recession, firms will demand for more and more inputs? Firms will want more and more raw materials. No, they are cutting down output means they will cut down their inputs. So that is a problem. We look at the others. Investor confidence is shaken. Correct. So during a recession, investors' confidence shaken means it reduces, it collapses. That is also correct. Then demand for goods and services decline. Correct. Aggregate demand comes down. Existence of excess production capacity. Correct. Because during a recession, when firms cut down production, they have excess production capacity now. So during a recession, let's say there is a garment factory. Okay, now this is MAS's factory. So MAS's factory has, let's say, capacity, let's say, to produce 100,000 clothes. Okay, but during a recession, not many people are buying them. So during a recession, they are actually producing only, let's say, 50,000 clothes. So they are working below capacity. They're working below capacity. So that means there is excess production capacity. So if they want, they can increase orders. This is also correct, Lamai. So which one is wrong is this. Inflation will decrease during a recession. Inflation will not rise. They said due to decrease in supply, is that also correct? Yes, that could be correct. If second one says decrease in supply. There was a few questions during the mock exam series. So I told that we'll have past papers also. The past paper I'm not planning to print and give it. I'll give you the complete PDF of it because it's there in your past paper book. No? I'll give you the complete PDF of it for the past papers. The mock papers I will print and give. So that's just duplication. Okay. Right. That's 2021. Question 2. 2021. Question 20. A paddy farmer sells paddy to a rice miller for 10,000. So you have a paddy farmer. Farmer is doing what? He is selling his output of 10,000 to whom? To a paddy miller. What does the miller do? The rice miller sells it to a rice flour miller for 12,000. So he makes the output of 12,000, sells it to a flour guy. Okay. Then the flour miller sells the flour to a noodles manufacturer for 15,000. He sells it to a noodles guy for 15,000. Noodles. What does the noodles fellow do? He sells it to the consumer for 20,000. Okay. So this is your intermediate consumption. Okay. So then with all of this, we'll see what are they asking us. They're asking us, what is the total value added by the rice miller and the noodles manufacturer? So rice miller is this guy, noodles manufacturer is this guy. So total value of only those two people, not of everyone. So rice miller's total value added is 12,000 minus 10,000, that is 2,000. Noodles guy's total value added is 20,000 minus 15,000, that is 5,000. So then how much is their total value added? These two people, it's only 7,000. So be careful with your question. That's why drawing this is very easy, Lamai. Then you can realize what you need to actually calculate. It's very hard, even for me, to picture this in my head. It's hard, Lamai. So always make use of your Katuvada and draw things and figure things out. So ideal, remember, for a MCQ, Lamai, you can take 2 minutes. Roughly, you can take 2. Maybe a question like this, even if you take a little bit more than 2, that's okay. Okay. I'll give you some tips as well. One tip I'll give you now, especially in the mock exam series, right? When you're doing your papers, time it and do it. So when you do, okay, when you do the questions, Lama, now MCQs, especially in your A-level paper, after you do the questions, you will not have time to check all 50 MCQs. To read one by one and check all 50, you won't have time. So when you're doing the MCQs, what you do is the questions that you are not sure of. Now, for example, now some questions, Lama, now for example, now something like this. Now this question you 100% know, make hari kiyala, make I will check karannu onne, right? So the questions that say you're not sure of your answer, Lama, put a small circle. This is in your actual A-level paper. Actual A-level paper, you have the question paper and the kottukole. Question paper also mark your answer, kottukole also mark your. I'll give those final tips in the final seminar what to do. But you mark your answers. The ones that you are not sure of, just put a circle. So maybe then by the end of the paper, you might have, let's say, around 15 questions you have circled and kept. Okay. So then if you, let's say, have around 15 minutes left. So my timing is ideally for MCQ take around 2 minutes. So MCQ you take around 2 minutes, then 100 minutes, you will finish 50 MCQs. You will have around 20-15 minutes left. So in that last 20-15 minutes, you can't check all 50 questions, Lama. You don't have time. Then you're going to just rush and not check anything properly. So the only ones you have circled and kept, under ethical, Lama, check. So do that thing. Now in the mock exam series, we are doing like actual papers, no? So in the mock exam series, actually implement that method. So when you're starting the paper, properly time it and do it. You will do it at home, most of it. Some of it will do at a physical setting. So when you time it and do it, let's say you start at 2 o'clock. So you know, okay, by 4 o'clock, I have to finish. So have a clock, just like you're doing it for A levels, and then do it and go, and then see how is your timing there. That's it. GOB consumers 20,000. What is GOB? This is 77,000. Answer that, huh? Okay. Then the next one. 2022, question number 90. Which of the following describes the typical business cycle in the correct sequence? Where does it go in the correct order? Same thing as before we think. Balan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one? So it has to go from down to up to again down to whatever it goes in right order. So number 2, expansion. Then it comes a peak, then a recession, then a trough. Looks correct. That's fine. Others are wrong with it. I'm not going to others because no one gave me answer number. Anything else? Then we have 23. Guys, also one more thing. How many people are having exams these days? When is your final exam in school? I don't know. You call it withdrawals or whatever. When is that? Is your final exam in school done, or is it happening in, where is it happening? September? When do you all have school holidays? Because I am asking to put some extra classes. When do you all have school holidays? You might, do you all have August kind of a holiday, right? Not the August holidays. So I want to have a few extra classes in like weekday mornings to finish some past papers off soon. So because right now I only keep it on the nights. So we'll see. Candy schools are holiday on repair. Nice, no? Fun for you. Good. 7 to 17th. What's the official government holiday? Government holidays is 7 to 17th. Government schools, 7 to 17th. Nice. Nice place to start the mock exam series also. Then you can get all the papers. Okay. Right. I'll have that in mind to have some extra class. Okay. 2023 question number 19. In an open economy model, the GDP is estimated as the sum of what? Sum of what? GDP is the final consumption expenditure, gross domestic capital formation, and net exports. This is expenditure approach. Huh? Private consumption expenditure, government consumption expenditure. Have I put this question in your paper? Is it there in your focus area? It's there, no? Right. This should have ideally been in the last focus area, but never mind. Private consumption, government consumption, exports of goods. So this is Lamai, the expenditure approach, how to calculate GDP. So can you all tell me the components that you have? You have private consumption. You have Lamai government consumption, or we call that public consumption. Both of that together is called what? Both of this together, you call it final consumption expenditure. Okay. Then you have Lamai gross domestic capital formation. That is what you call investment. For this, if you add exports and if you minus imports, you get GDP. Exports minus import, that is what you call net exports. So which answer aligns with this story, Lam? Which one goes in line? Final consumption expenditure, gross domestic capital formation, net exports. This looks okay. We look at the others. Private consumption expenditure. Why expenditure approach? Because all the answers are expenditure approach components. Private consumption expenditure, government consumption expenditure, and exports. Then you're missing on gross domestic capital formation. Final consumption expenditure, gross domestic fixed capital formation. Remember, my gross domestic fixed capital formation is one component of gross domestic capital formation. No? This is only one component. So you're missing change in inventories, you're missing change in value. So it's not the entire thing, right? This is only one component. Remember, gross domestic capital formation and gross domestic fixed capital formation are two things. So wrong. Final consumption expenditure, gross domestic fixed capital formation again. Change in inventory, exports. Then you're not reducing imports. Private consumption, gross domestic corporate, gross domestic Then you're missing government consumption. So answer number 1. So be careful now. These are not difficult MCQs. As long as you know the components, if you can figure it out, you can get it done. So 2023-19 is question 1. Done. Last paper. Let's say you did all those past papers and now you did A levels last year. Can you do this? According to the value added method, GDP is calculated by how? Subtracting the value of intermediate goods from the value of output. Looks okay, right? Intermediate consumption, you minus it from your value of output, gross value of output, okay? Adding the value of all final goods and services produced, okay? Adding the total income generated in an economy, okay? Adding the value of all intermediate goods used in production. Subtracting the value of imports from the total value of output. Shall we cut the most obvious answers out? And then we'll narrow it down to get your answer. What can we cut off? What's the most obvious, stupidest answer out there? Number 4, right? 4 says adding the value of all intermediate goods. You don't add all the value of intermediate goods. No? 5 says subtracting the value of imports from total output. No, so I will cut off 4 and 5. 4 and 5 is kind of nonsense. 3 talks about adding the total income generated. That could be income approach. Okay. Adding the value of all final goods and services. Okay. Subtracting the value of intermediate goods from the value of output. So you have 1, 2, and 3. I will go back to the question. Question says, according to the value added method, GDP is calculated by. What do you think? According to the value added method, 1, 2, or 3. Quickly, last question. I want all of you, if you're not falling asleep, there are 180 odd people here. Give me an answer. 1, 2, or 3. This is the latest A-level paper, question number 19. Which one is your answer? What did you all put? At least if you all have not done the paper, do it now. Is it 1? Some are saying 1, some are saying 2. 19. So if you talk about the value added method, value added method, how do you get? Remember, in your value added method, you take the gross value of output and you minus intermediate consumption. And that is how you get the gross value added. For that, you adjust for taxes, you get GDP. So which one talks about something like that? Answer 1, right? Adding the value of all final goods and services, this is the output approach. Okay. This is the production or the output approach. Adding all the income generated, this is the income approach. Right? So that's why 2 and 3 is gone. Yeah. So GVA, for that, if you adjust for net taxes, you get GDP. So that is why. Now, even 2 and 3 is not GDP. If you add all the output, you get GVA at basic price. If you add all the incomes also, you get GVA at basic price. So it's not GDP. Even 2 and 3 is not GDP. So forget about the tax adjustment. So which one is the correct one there? Answer number 1. Okay, that's 2024 question 19. There was one question that I had to remove. This one. Okay, how did you all do? There were first 2 is gone. Then there were total, there were, I think, 19 MCQs. How much out of 19? I would say a good mark could be around 11 at least out of 19. When I say good mark, Lama, that is me telling if you at least have got 11, you can get an A. That's what I'm saying. You at least got 11 in this next 3 months. If you work hard, you can get A. That's what I'm saying. That is what I mean by saying a good mark. So if you can get at least 11, maybe a 10 also is not bad. So just one MCQ, no, right? So at least 11, you can go for that. I hope your other units are also okay. And not that you only know unit number 5. But if you're in general, at least at that point, you are kind of fine. Right. That is that part. Do you all want to do the essay questions today, or do you want to do it in the next class? We have the essay questions. Go with the majority. I can't put a poll here. So far, I have around 70% next class, 30% today. Today or next class. Okay, now I have 60% next class, 40% today. More for today. Okay, now I'm on next class. Right. Okay, majority has the next class. So I will anyway need around 1.5 hours to actually do the essay questions. Right. That's why. So we only have, I will go, and even if I do this, will go past 10. So we'll do it the next class, but I will have a few extra classes. And if we can't finish this level, we are still in unit number 5. So on your end, can you make sure that you finish it and come somehow? So next class, we will do this, plus we'll move into the next focus area as well. So next area will not only be the MCQs, not only the essay questions, you'll have that as well. So majority has next class. So okay, there are some people with today. Okay, so I put a poll on the WhatsApp group. Okay, give me a second.